listeners, and welcome to a Geek Tragedy. I am Stephen, known online as Plague Man for various reasons, and I am your host. I'm going to try and leave a gap there longer and longer each week when I get to and see if we can do the whole hour eventually without anyone noticing.
Why?
I don't know. I'd like to welcome to the pod the most erudite human and my best friend, Holly Properly. Hello, Holly, how are you?
Confused.
Did you sit on a badger?
No, I'm just confused by why you want to have an hour of silence.
Slightly longer pause than I usually do there.
Is it for the antici... ...
Patient! Sorry, I couldn't help it.
No, that's fine. I was waiting for you to do it.
And of course, our very own salvaged man, crafter par excellence, Mark Cordory. How are you, Mark?
I'm very well, thank you very much, Stephen. I've been crafting par excellently in my workshopily.
Nice.
Doing post-apocalyptic.
What were you crafting probably ops?
I just can't carry that on anymore. I'm making another post-apocalyptic costume commission.
Nice.
At the moment.
That's handy. It's what our pod's about. It's post-apocalyptic stuff.
Curious, isn't it?
There we go. And of course, hidden behind the scenes, our producer, long-suffering Kit, who shall be named Kit. What kind of kit is Kit? Beans?
Kit is best kit.
Best kit today.
Best kit or Airfix kit. Always Airfix kit, because Airfix kit's the best kind of kits. Maybe.
Or a model kit. I mean, I
model
still
kit.
think of always. And Stephen, yourself, last but by no means first. How are you, Stephen? You appear to be dying.
I have made, as I said earlier, I've made a terrible mistake. I haven't eaten much today, and in the space of 20 minutes, tried to fill myself for the largest meal I could possibly cook this evening, and now I feel like I'm going to go explode. So let's say, otherwise I'm good. I've had a weekend of cat impalement. Not that I've impaled a cat. My cat has been impaled by something. And after coming back from the vets and being heavily stitched up, we had a weekend of it popping its stitches on the bank holiday Sunday. And of course, our emergency vets demanding thousands of pounds to restitch them up. Fortunately, we found the vets just around the corner who would do it for £100. So he is now stable back together.
And that vet was legitimate. It wasn't just some kind of,
It was not. It was not a backstreet vet.
It wasn't just someone with a stationery shop.
And the backstreet vets are banned from the 90s.
What?
Is the backstreet vets a band from the 90s?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Backstreet vets, all right.
Meow.
No.
Okay.
2 minutes and 59 seconds that lasted as a recording.
Oh, we're done, are we?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, before it just went completely off the rails.
No, we did well.
Maybe you should leave a longer pause. It's more sensible.
Oh, longer pause? No, we didn't do anything weird to him. He's just had a stitch up the side. He hasn't had like genetic surgery.
I know. I was there.
Yeah. So it's episode 15, and the last one. We promise that we will spend striding confidently across a post-apocalyptic / dystopian wasteland / horror. At least for now. I'm sure we will revisit this subject with more thoughts about new films and other things we go and watch. For starters, we are definitely going to sit down and have a chat about Fallout once Holly has watched it.
Yes, which I'm going to start very soon, actually, because I'm nearly out of old reruns of Dinner Date on Netflix.
And one does follow the other.
That's quite a transition you're aiming for there.
Isn't it just? I like
to shock myself. Do you not want to ease yourself in gently with British Bake Off or something, just to,
No, I went off British Bake Off.
Is there a British Nuke Off that you could watch? That's kind of more...
Yeah.
That's very Fallout, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no.
Okay.
I do enjoy the Great British Sewing Bee, though. That's nice. It's quite
Why
gentle.
are you taking off topic, Holly? I mean, come on.
Oh, my God.
So far, it's been quite the adventure listening to each other's experiences and thoughts. But we've covered books and we started chatting about games, which we're going to finish next. It's going to be a less exciting lead-in than normal. I'm not even going to ask the Holly Properly question because we're just going to kind of continue our stroll through games, finish that off, and then have a chat about films that have inspired us down the years. And we'll see how many of those we can get through. So let's pretend like we didn't end the last pod and just roll straight into this one. So, Mark, you were saying that like there are a few games that you'd like to mention in the special mentions section from the post-apocalyptic kind of era. What would they be?
Yes, actually, I was. Thank you for reminding me. I mean, as if it was only
seconds ago.
Seconds ago. Well, the two games that have most impressed me of a post-apocalyptic genre that I've played have been Horizon Zero Dawn and its sequel, Horizon Forbidden West, and also Last of Us 1 and 2, although number 2 was kind of, I think it annoyed a number of people. It was far more difficult in terms of you were playing the classic character of Ellie, but you were also playing her adversary as well. And I think that annoyed some people, especially because, also spoilers for anybody who hasn't played it. You're not listening anymore? That's good. They kill off Joel really early in the second game. And the dynamic between Ellie and Joel in the first game was just beautiful. It was just an evolving relationship in this apocalyptic world, which I think is what captured so many people. And in terms of storytelling, I think Last of Us and Horizon Zero Dawn, one was a very intimate, personal story of these two characters, and Horizon Zero Dawn was literally a global apocalypse, which you were uncovering why and how that happened, and basically where you were in terms of a post-apocalyptic world. And it was just beautiful. And both of them, I think, really broke the mold in many ways for storytelling within games and proved that computer games were as valid a storytelling medium now as TV and film and anything else. And curiously enough, both have been made into very successful TV series. And I think that was a major part of why they translated well into TV series, because the stories that they were telling. Fallout has been a successful TV series. Horizon Zero Dawn is in the planning. I don't know how that's going, but The Last of Us was a fantastic TV series which stuck very close to the first game. So those two were ones I was really enamoured with. And also, just for a fun game, Holly was saying about last week about how melee weapons in Fallout didn't really work that well.
No, they're toss.
Yeah, well, a really good, pretty much post-apocalyptic game, Dead Island with zombies, which is kind of refreshing because it's all set in this lovely holiday tropical resort and there are zombies around, but it's all about the melee weapons on that one. So you get to really in-your-face zombie mashing with a variety of interesting weapons. So those three games, apocalyptic themed, were the ones that I have enjoyed the most recently.
Is it scary?
What?
Dead Island?
Oh yeah.
Okay, then no thank you.
It gets darker and darker and darker as it goes. You start off on a beach, and you go, oh, this is lovely. Oh, look, a zombie split. And then as
you explore... naming the zombie or are you killing it?
No, this is my zombie friend. His name is Split.
Split. And that one over there is Splat. As you explore more of the island and you start to get into darker and darker areas of the island, like the townscape becomes really quite nightmarish and claustrophobic and very, very panicky.
Okay, that's...
For some reason now I can only think of... Is it Hagar the Horrible's dog is called Snut?
I can't remember.
No, you said Split.
Split.
How many countries get Hagar the Horrible as a...
I don't know, Holly's our usual
newspaper cartoon strip?
I don't know, let's have a look.
Well, I'm just thinking how well known that reference will be, whether it's just purely...
Is it not a documentary? I thought it was still a documentary strip.
I
love the fact that you think that we're international, Mark.
Well, hey, somebody elsewhere might be listening to us. You know, and when we become international, then people might want to listen to our back catalogue, our extensive back catalogue of 15 episodes.
Well, even like I've done a fair amount of poking people, and there are people who keep PMing me now every day, going like, "I'm just listening to episode 4. I'm listening to episode 2." I'm like, "Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you for listening past episode 1." But yeah.
Apparently, Hagar the Horrible was a scrolling platform game released by Kingsoft in 1991 for the Amiga.
I can believe that.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything was once a platform sideways scrolling game.
Mm-hmm. Except Doom.
Also,
Doom
no,
Bioshock's a good one that's being turned into a TV show.
It is.
I'm so excited, for that. Bioshock's a bit like the Sixth Sense for me, in the fact that like, because there are so many really cool like elements of it that you don't see coming, like there are twists that change like all of that make all of the previous gameplay seem a little bit different in your head after those twists have happened.
The fact that you find out you're dead at the end of the game and always have been.
No.
Okay.
But like
can we just say as well that if you are one of those people from abroad listening to our back catalogue, Bioshock was great, wasn't it? It was an amazing show, yeah. Or it was awful.
Man, it was terrible.
No, just shit. Just listen to whichever part that you like, and
yeah.
Delete is applicable.
Delete as in agreement with us or not. But no, like I think I really want it to be. I really want Bioshock to be kind of like quite true to the game plot, because I want to see how they do it. But at the same time, then I feel like people that have played it a number of times, like I have, would then maybe not want to watch it as much because there aren't really any surprises. So I'm conflicted about that.
You get tablets for that.
And the dog was called Snurt.
Oh, so close. Snurt. Excellent. Not snut.
No, that's Hagar the Horrible, potentially available in a country near you.
I remember where I used to read Hagar the Horrible. Anyway, this is an irrelevance. It's not part of the post-apocalypse, nor will it ever be. So, yes. Did you have any games that you got left to talk about, or did you just want to... Were you done with Hercules?
Hercules, the 1997 side scroller from Disney that I've never managed to complete.
Is it the only game you've ever played?
It's one of them.
Oh, I'm getting the idea that it might be the only game you've ever played.
When I was very small, my dad got a PlayStation 1, and we had Doom. And I only saw him at weekends, so like it was a real novelty for me. And I never owned a games console up until I was about 25, 26. I never had it. Like when I was a kid, I never had a games console.
So just last year then?
Pretty much, yeah. Youthful. And so my dad having this PlayStation was just incredible. And I was like 4 or 5 or whatever and played Doom, and then had horrific nightmares for months on end. And I had Hercules, and also Bust a Move 3DX. That was very good. And something called Karashi, which was like a Japanese puzzle game that I never understood, but played a lot anyway. And Hercules was one of the sort of the first games that I ever really kind of... It was how I realized I liked games. But then I never really got to like play a lot of them because I didn't have a games console at home, which I was perfectly happy with, because I read books and went outside and, did other things at home. And then
you had the Game Boy Color, didn't you?
I got a Game Boy Color for my 10th or 11th. I think it was my 10th birthday.
That's technically a console.
No, but I mean like a kind of TV, console rather than like a handheld console. Because my first ever handheld console was Electronic Monopoly, which I still have, and it still works.
We should do a pod on that, because I've still got my Astro Wars and my Scramble up there.
Yeah.
Beep, beep, beep. It was Space Invaders, but handheld and like this kind of big. That I got when I was 4.
But yeah, so Hercules is like a really important part of my gaming growth as an individual, and I've still never beaten it, and I'm 34.
So unbelievably, Mark, that was the shortest way that Holly would ever answer the question with a no. Because when you asked the question, have you not played any other games, and Holly, is that the game you played, and Holly said no. But there you go.
Do you want to know what my first gaming platform was?
Was it the grandstand? Or was it the playground?
Stick and wheel.
Was it building Stonehenge?
Yeah, and the horse you rode in on once again. Amiga 500.
I had Amiga.
Yeah.
Well, I have to bet you because I had an Amiga 600 with built-in hard drive.
Did you have the Hagar the Horrible side-scrolling game?
I can't remember.
No, I had a lot of Bitmap Brothers. Bitmap Brothers were my favourite games producers.
They were incredibly successful. We should talk about them one day because they were just like a couple of guys that were like, their younger brother was their games tester and he was 6 years old or something.
Yeah, what was it? Gods, Chaos Engine. That was a Bitmap Brothers one, wasn't it?
Chaos Engine was a phenomenal game. I was only talking. I did a whole thing about the Bitmap Brothers just a couple of weeks ago.
Alien Invasion or something. Alien thing. Anyway.
We should move on. We've only got 4 minutes left of this section.
I blame Holly for Hagar the Horrible.
I'm going to finish off by saying,
I'd never heard of Hagar the Horrible until Stephen brought it up.
Oh yeah, Hercules the Horrible. Whatever.
Hercules the Horrible. Hercules the snurt. But I just finished off my first ever thing to play games on was probably a VIC-20, which was the thing before a Commodore 64.
Well, I know that.
There you go. Didn't do much. But we can talk about computers that we owned another day. This is now a musical episode.
No, it isn't.
I was going to mention 2 games, and I'll mention them very quickly because...
I talked.
That's okay. I like listening to you talk. I like to Mark talk. It's all good. Left 4 Dead is one, which I only do a very short bit on because...
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's a really good little game, and it's the post-apocalyptic nature of that is you just get mobbed by loads of different types of zombies, and it's fun. And the reason I liked it was because it was a very good multiplayer game because you could have a whole team of you trying to get through and dicking around and shooting each other and messing everything up because you were always panicking. It was a very well done kind of terror levels jump scare first-person shooter.
Yeah, it was very good.
But it had a really kind of clown-esque feel to it at the same time, which was quite good. And if you were playing the bad guys, you basically just played all of the zombies and you just activated them and sent them off to do stuff. And you would play the smokers and stuff with the long tongues grab people. And that would shit you up if you were like being one of the good guys because you just suddenly get like wrapped up from somewhere and dragged off or get hunted or whatever. And it was really good. And Left 4 Dead 2 was all right. You got to use a guitar as a hand-to-hand combat weapon and it went spring whenever you hit someone. So that was fun. But I could say more. But the other one was This War of Mine, which is kind of post-apocalyptic in that you're living in a mini apocalypse because it's a game that was made by people who have lived through war, particularly in Eastern Europe, and then they made a game about how you were supposed to survive after your city has been destroyed, and there are people like trying to murder you, and the supplies are running out everywhere, and you have to like kind of go out at night and leave your home behind, and if you come back, hope no one's in there raiding it or murdering your friends, and you're just playing like teachers or small child or whatever, and they've all got like smoking addictions and drink addictions, and there's no cigarettes, and they go mad and kill themselves. And it's really depressingly hard to do, but it's incredibly gosh and I really enjoyed it. Probably won't play it.
No, I won't play it. I'm never going to play it. You keep trying to make me play the board game as well, and I'm not going to play that either.
Don't play the board game because that's depressing for a whole another load of reasons.
No, I've dabbled with the board game. I have played it. Not a laugh a minute, really, is it?
No, but I thought that was probably one of the most powerful games I played on the PC. I just generally any console really. Yeah, and when the Ukraine war started, the guys that made it started giving it away for free. Basically, did it in humble bundles and stuff. Start raising money for the. We did a lot of streams, didn't we, for
the International Rescue Committee. Yeah, we did. Yeah, one of the best ones was that one where if you donated, then Trues would put on another hat. He ended up in many hats all at the same time.
He would put on an item of LARP clothing, so ended up in like Gambeson and everything, and was really warm.
Yeah. That's quite funny.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, so those are games. Those are some games that we want to mention, and we talked about other stuff as we always do. So if you came here to listen to us talk for 20 minutes about post-APOC games, you got to listen to 4 or 5 minutes of that, and I hope that was enough for you.
Because we're not doing it again.
Well, yeah, but I always start talking about films. You might meander back into games. It's highly likely. Or if you tune in 7 more pods time, you'll probably find us talking about post-APOC games when we're supposed to be talking about fish. But we were very keen to talk about films that have inspired us. I think this is probably the bit that we've kind of been waiting for, because we talked about literature first and books and whatnot, and we do enjoy our readings, but I think the kind of level of post-apocalyptic stuff that we're now exposed to mostly comes from cinema, and it's been ratcheted up over the years, and there's some really good stuff out there. So I sat down, not really to do a script today, I just kind of sat down to do a little bit of a running order and some sort of titles that we could select films from. So I got like zombies and imaginative nonsense, or climate change, or whatever, and encouraged my fellows to kind of pick some games from those areas. We'll kind of go with 2 each, start off with, and talk about why we think they're amazing. And I thought we should probably start with Beans, because Beans hasn't said anything yet, but of course Beans has just spent 10 minutes talking, so
yeah, start with literally anybody but me.
So I'm going to start by talking about Snowpiercer, which is one of my favourite films, which I put in Zombies and Other... No, that's 28 Days Later. I still do 28 Days Later. That's probably my preferred one, isn't it?
Yeah, you should do
I
that
do
one
like that one first. Yeah, because you want to talk about Snowpiercer, don't you? You're going to steal my Snowpiercer.
I'd like to join in. I'm not going to steal it, though. I've got 2 of my own.
Okay, so 28 Days Later I found to be really good. I think Mark was going to talk... whether I write down that you were going to talk about... you're going to talk about some of Romero's films.
Yes, as my
because I think
fair bit of zombie-ish going on.
Yeah. Well, so I like the fact that 20 Days Later really kind of, I think, dragged that kind of genre out from underneath Romero's shadow, because that had been cast for a long time over the film industry, right?
Oh yeah.
And when 20 Days Later came out, it kind of brought in that infected concept to the
fast zombies became
fast zombies. Which we just talked about Left 4 Dead. That whole pack of running around zombies was very heavily featured in Left 4 Dead, which may have well been called 20 Days Later the game. But I thought when that first came out, I don't really know what I was expecting from it, but it was kind of a whole new brand, I think, of like post-APOC films. And I went to see it at the cinema, and I kind of went to see it because it had like Chris Eccleston in it and people like that who I was quite enjoying his acts at the time. And of course, it's got Cillian Murphy in it, isn't it? It's one of his, Cillian. It's one of his first ever films, isn't it? Because that's what, 2002? 28 Days Later?
I've never seen it.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I don't like
really,
zombies.
Definitely worth watching. It gave me a lot of...
They're not zombies. They're infected.
They are, I still don't like them.
Yeah. So the real kind of thing with 20 Days Later Beans, like I think more than other zombie films, is the fear. A lot of the fear comes from sort of loss of individuality in the zombies. They are so manic and so like kind of just charging around the place that, you know, even more so than other zombies, you don't want to be one, right? They're like, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. You're not really selling it to me.
It's very terrifying.
It's terrifying.
There are wonderful bits. Like just getting a drop of the blood on you will make you change. And there's a scene in it where a taxi driver has agreed to take the survivors north to where they're getting a radio signal from Manchester to join like the armed forces or whatever who are going to protect them. And they get to this kind of
checkpoint.
Yeah, checkpoint, and everyone's dead, and it all looks terrible. And they're out and they're moving around. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And one of the guys looks up, and a drop of blood falls off his body and gets him in the eye. And you're like, and it's heartbreaking. You're like, no, why? Who aims like that? You know, it's like that's really awful. And the guy like, and he's just he was. Isn't that he's not with the daughter, is he?
It was also the speed of the turn as well. That was relatively new.
Yeah.
because Romero will get on to Romero, but
Yeah.
Romero's transition period from infected to full zombie was considerably longer.
Yeah, you had the whole like kind of getting to say goodbye period.
Yeah.
Whereas that's what I mean about lost vintage reality. It just kind of goes. There's no. It's just gone. You would call him Romero, by the way.
Of course I
Wherefore art thou?
would. Romero. Well, Romero is usually found in the back four. That is wherefore art thou, Romero. He's a footballer. His name's Romero, but I have to give nicknames to everything. So Romero he is.
It's true. I was saying as well, it gives me very Day of the Triffid vibes. I really like that whole kind of concept that, he wakes up in hospital. Yeah, wakes up in hospital, like, rather than obviously having his eyes covered, he's just in a coma, which then they do in Living Dead. And goes out into the world and everything's broken. And you're like, I said, I think in the last pod, I really like Day of the Triffids, or maybe Now Reading Things pod. It's one of my favourite stories within the story. So seeing that in the 20 Days Later was very pleasing. I also found it amazing that they actually managed to block off bits of London to film in. So they managed to shut off bits of road for like 20 minutes to an hour, and then film there very quickly.
They filmed really early on Sunday mornings.
Yes, yeah, and they had there's a scene where there's a bus turned over outside Downing Street, and they said, like, they went up there and went, can we put a bus scene here? We've got the crane, we've got the bus, we're going to flip it over, do a very quick scene, we'll be here for like 20 minutes. And they went, no. Well, it didn't help that 9/11 had just happened, Twin Towers had just happened, so there was a lot of like kind of flyers of missing people all the way through the film, and that was really reminiscent of what was going on in America. But they basically turned up at Downing Street on a Sunday morning at like 5 a.m, and there was no one there, so they just tipped the bus over and filmed it anyway.
I love that. I love the ingenuity.
Yeah. I do it. I've talked about the Doctor Who one, haven't I? Which is my favourite Doctor Who one.
Mm-mm.
So they filmed the Talons of Weng Chiang, which we won't go into about its slightly dubious nature, but it's filmed in Victorian London, and they've got some appropriate streets for the filming for the horse and carriages to go down, but it was for the cars. So they just basically they hired the horse and carriage, they asked the people to move their cars, and there was one car that they couldn't find the owner of, and it's just sat there in the street, and they're like, we can't film it. So the ingenious idea of waiting to film it like as late as they could, guys didn't turn up, and then shoveling all the shit that the horse had done over the car, and then just riding past this massive pile of shit that's side the road. Then they cleaned the car off and just slipped a fiver on through the window and just left them a note going, we covered your car in shit. We've left you a fiver in your car, really sorry.
Wouldn't it have been easier to just chuck a blanket over it or something?
Yeah.
Who cares? That's not a great story. Covering it in shit is fantastic. Anyway, sorry, that's not really post-apocalyptic. I don't have a post-apocalyptic covering a car in shit story. But yeah, I think it's a very good film, probably one of my favourites. I think Danny Boyle did a really good job of bringing, like I say, the style of Romero out of getting out of that shadow and bringing it into the light and doing something very new, which has been copied for the last 20 years. It's been the inspiration for loads of stuff. And if you haven't seen it, Bings, you really should go and watch the first of this genre of films. It's very good.
No, thank you.
I didn't think 28 months later was that good, but we're going at 28 years later.
I thought it was weeks. It was 28 weeks.
Yeah, weeks later, rather, yes. 28 weeks
28
later.
days, 28 weeks, and then it's going to be 28 years.
Yeah. 28 months is just like...
It's not really a snappy title for some reason, is it?
No, it's not. And it's just kind of reminiscent of all of those people that when they have their children, they say, oh, he's 36 months old. And you're like, no, he's 3. Like, just...
But it was... Okay, so it was so iconic, particularly in Britain, because it was filmed in this country, that when we had lockdown and the pandemic, a lot of the news reporters were comparing it to 28 days. There you go.
I'm not a fan of zombies, and I'm not a fan of being scared of things.
Ooh, I am.
Yeah.
I just don't quite like it.
I'd like to find films that actually scare me after all the years of watching horror.
No, thank you.
They did it well. They filmed it in digital and they really grained it out, so it looks really oppressive, It looks like you're watching it at that kind of 3 a.m. time with the street lights just off a little bit too far away, and it's all a bit kind of hard to see. Maybe a bit drizzly.
Yeah, you're not. No, thank you. I'd have to watch it. The first time I ever watched like a really scary movie, I watched it with my stepdad, and it was Nightmare on Elm Street, and I was probably like 14, 15, and like I'd seen like other scary movies before that, but like always kind of by accident. And I really wanted to watch Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, I was really keen because it was like iconic and it had Johnny Depp in it. And I really, really, really wanted to watch it. And my stepdad said he'd watch it with me, so we had to watch it in the middle of the day on the smallest screen we possessed, with all like the curtains open and all of the lights on. It was the only way that I would watch it, and I was still terrified.
Wow.
Not a fan. Really not a fan at all. I can read horror and scary things. I can't watch it.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Mark,
what's a top 10 post-apocalyptic movies? Well, it doesn't matter. Any of them, anything.
Well, I mean, as I mentioned, I have for a long time been a fan of the zombie genre as an apocalypse. So the original George Romero Dawn of the Dead was probably the first zombie apocalypse film that I ever saw and loved, and just fell in love with the work of Tom Savini as a result.
Can I ask you an immediate question?
Yeah, go
on. When you first watched it, and it kind of like there weren't a lot of apocalypse films around at that point, did you view it as an apocalypse film? Or, I mean, how did it come across? What were you thinking when you watched it?
Well, it's quite a small scale because he cleverly contains virtually all of the action within a shopping centre. So you don't get an idea of what's happening in the wider world. So it didn't feel apocalyptic, but the implications were that, yes, the wider world has been infected as well. It's been a number of years since I've seen it. The remake was pretty good. Actually, for a remake, it was very good. And they introduced fast-moving zombies for that because of the George Romero zombies in Dawn of the Dead. I don't think there were any fast-moving zombies.
They were shamblers, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. But there was that. And then it's, various zombie films sort of riffed off the whole Romero genre. And Romero did a number of other, Day of the Dead and Land of the Dead. But I think it was diminishing returns, really. But for most recent favourite zombie films, probably my favourite has to be Train to Busan, which is a Korean film. It's all set with a zombie outbreak on board a high-speed train. So there's a real claustrophobia there. So you imagine Snowpiercer, but with zombies.
I was going to mention the claustrophobia when we talk about Snowpiercer. It's, particularly that scene in the film where the fight happens in the pitch black. And that's very good. It's very well done.
Yeah. Well, it was an interesting use of the environment as well, where people were crawling along the luggage racks to avoid being attacked by the zombies in the carriage. I thought that was a really good film. Inevitably, it's being remade as The Last Train to New York because you can't have a good foreign film without it being remade into a Hollywood film, alas. And Wreck. Yeah, Wreck as well.
I said The Ring is the example.
Oh, yeah.
Because The Ring is a superb horror film, but the American Ring... Is that all?
It's terrible.
Michelle Gellar, isn't it? Michelle Gellar.
No, that's The Grudge.
That's The Grudge.
Yeah, that's also bad.
That was very disappointing. Having watched The Ring and, absolutely...
Yeah, most of them are. Most of them...
Sorry, carry on, Mark.
I was just going to say, because culturally, I think it's always interesting seeing genre films like this made by non-Hollywood, non-European, non-Hollywood, because you will get a different cultural approach to it.
Mm-hmm.
As the other one that I really enjoyed was Wreck, which was a Spanish film. I think it was Spanish. Yeah, it was Spanish.
I really loved Wreck. That's one of
you did.
Yeah, I loved
But
Wreck.
that's scary.
But it's not
it's scary and claustrophobic.
It is scary and claustrophobic, but it's not like zombie
Fast
horror
Zombies
or
funny.
like it's not like
more. It's a possession. It's a possession that's transmitted by a bite, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not good at jumpy. I think that, and things and very kind of like where that Wreck
Stressful.
I can deal with, and Wreck I can deal with it because it was kind of it had that slower pace, and it sort of had that kind of like gentle is completely the wrong word because nothing about that film was gentle, but it just kind gentle. Of it was less frenetic. I think is the way that, and it's not.
I don't know. I've watched it in the past month, and I still think it's fairly hectic. There's a lot of running around and screaming up and down stairs, and people.
I mean, what worse can we manage to get him to mean like animatedly excited?
Yeah. Animatedly
How
excited.
many more can we manage?
I don't know. Next week on our episode of A Geek Tragedy, The Thesaurus. No,
I can use squatulate. Do the guys with squatulate out of there?
Flee.
It all went very, very badly wrong. But then, if you want a full-on zombie apocalypse movie, World War Z, or as our American listeners will call it, World War Z.
World War Z.
I mean that is quite an impressive film. I read the book. It's nothing like the book.
No, it isn't.
Because it's written by Mel Brooks' son.
Yes.
The original book is written by Mel Brooks' son, which is
when they're climbing the wall in the film,
connection.
And it's just like kind of the overwhelming number of them, and you're like, "Fucking hell!"
Yeah, it's like a herd. It's like ants. They become just this hive mind of they're no longer individual things.
Yeah,
they're just a swarm. So
you see, that sounds
where
awful.
I think I mean, it's pretty stressful, but it does have. It was filmed before.
Why Mark's thinking it's a film in which the scale is incredible. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So rather than it's really fast moving or like they just keep coming. Or the scale of what is happening is incredible, and you're like
Peter Capaldi. Sorry, I just had to say it before I forget it. Carry on. The scale of it is.
Yeah. It's like you can't quite get your head around how anyone like your heroes are going to survive or whatever because there's just. It's just so
overwhelming numbers, and the infection rate is a matter of seconds.
Yeah,
they literally count it in the film. It's like something like 15 seconds from being bitten to becoming a full-on raving zombie lunatic, ready to throw themselves off buildings to get to you. But it has Peter Capaldi playing a World Health Organization doctor, so a doctor from WHO, and this was just before Peter Capaldi was announced as the role for Doctor Who. So
that's a big spoiler for everyone there if you haven't got to him.
Yeah, I mean, this is full of spoilers. This entire episode is full of spoilers.
One for a reason, of course. But yeah, so cool. That's good. Bit of zombie talk. I was just to add to the Ring thing. When I watched that for the first time, remember last week I told you about the guy who I played Quake with. So I was that same period of time when I was staying at his house. We were watching The Ring, and we'd never seen it before. And it was like the early 2000s, and our other friends were watching at their house. And we're just typing away to each other about, "Oh, this is scary. This is exciting," and it was in the middle of a storm. There's lightning coming out. It's all very terrifying. And for some reason, somehow, simultaneously, both our screens went off. So in both houses, as she was like in the nursing home, she's crawling out of the TV, our screens went off. My God, we panicked. Theirs came back on, but no sound. We could hear what was going on. So they're trying to tell us what's happening. We're trying to say what we can hear. It was panic. We were quite drunk.
Again, that
I was
sounds
very
awful.
drunk at the time.
Beans, give me a post-apoc movie you want to talk about.
Aladdin.
How on earth could Aladdin be a post-apoc film? Holly properly.
Come on, we've talked about Hercules. Now let's talk about Aladdin.
Well,
More
if you want someone to
post-apocalyptic
tell you
themed
about
episode.
being a
Go for it.
post-apocalyptic you need someone to tell you Holly properly.
Oh, and so I've got to do it myself. I'm still not. I just still don't know how to answer that.
Sod off, Stephen.
Badly.
Oh, yeah,
I think
sod
your
off,
shtick
Stephen.
is, either rudely or badly.
You go for rudely every time. So how is it a post-apoc film, Beans? Tell us something we don't know.
Okay, so there are some fan theories for Aladdin which have been discounted by Disney directors.
Oh, what do they know?
Like I have to
Okay,
caveat
we'll move on then.
that. But I love this. I think
Two very
this is
different points of view there from your companions.
I think this is pretty brilliant. So there's the idea that the movie, so Aladdin was set, and I'm talking about the original animated Disney film, not the remake. I haven't seen the remake.
The remakes, the live action one's great.
Because I refuse to watch any of the Disney live action remakes because I was so let down by Beauty and the Beast that I'm never watching another one ever again as long as I live ever. so there are a few theories, right, that Agrabah is a city. I'm just going to blindly just carve my path in this. You guys can talk about whoever you want. That Agrabah is a city that is being rebuilt after an apocalypse, like after an apocalyptic event. The magic carpet is part of, is this some kind of interesting futuristic technology that has managed to survive this event and is now the last one of its kind, and that's why there are no more around and about? Is the genie a very, rather than being just a genie, is he sort of some kind of really up-to-date AI kind of Siri sort of can grant wishes by giving you basically essentially replicating what you want and creating it.
Well, it's a Star Trek replicator.
He could be very advanced kind of AI kind of Siri kind of thing.
Well, you don't dismiss that because 3D printers are basically replicators, right?
You can 3D print food,
but not many of them look like that. But carry on.
Not many of them look like the genie, no. But I mean, this is why this theory
I thought you were saying the
exists.
genie is some kind of projected holographic AI.
Yeah,
and that it's got access to 3D printers.
Pretty much.
Okay, that makes sense.
You can kind of, I mean, that's it's stretching the bounds of limit of it's the willing suspension of disbelief, isn't it? Really.
What about
Can I say the thing?
Iago is a mutant. Iago is either parrot, but he's able to communicate as well as he is because either humans through this very advanced civilization that collapsed taught animals how to, or developed technology that allowed animals to communicate much better with humans.
Oh, you're saying he's biogenetically engineered?
Yeah, or he's a mutant because there's a whole bunch of radiation around and he's just developed the ability to mimic and talk.
Wouldn't it be easier if he was just a robot?
It would, absolutely, but that is not something I had considered. If he is because you see the thing is as well as if he's bioengineered or if there's some kind of device that allows him to talk to Jafar or allows him to talk to the Sultan and other people, not that kind of Jafar, then it makes sense why sometimes he just when he's talking, when other people are trying to talk to him and he doesn't want to talk to them, he puts on a very convincing parrot act or, just squawks. So
okay.
Yeah, there's
Kreemok.
Yeah. So there's the theory.
Is that it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, my takeaway from that is that some people have far too much time on their hand and have smoked far too many spliffs for getting on
Allegedly.
pages. No, absolutely. I mean, you are not straight in the head if you've come up with that theory on your own out of nowhere.
Oh, I think it's great. I love it.
It's like how many words are on the end of your finger.
Well, my takeaway from that is that I didn't get a chance to say no one's staring in disbelief at my willy suspension, which made me sad.
Thank you for finishing the Blackadder quote.
You're very welcome. But yes, so that's another classic post-apoc film, loved and described by Beans.
Yeah. You see, the thing is, dear listeners, is that I went through a whole bunch of actual post-apocalyptic films earlier today and realised that I haven't actually seen any of them, so I'm making a lot of this up as I go along. Go me.
Okay, so moving on to probably the one we only just about have time for because we've talked for quite a while. We're going to talk about one that we've all seen and have different views on. We're going to talk about Snowpiercer, which I brought up earlier, which in the style of disaster that brought about the end of the world, this one's a climate change disaster. I want to kind of I wrote down the exact why it happened, the actual numbers that they called the thing that happened, because in Snowpiercer they introduced, it's called CW7, right? I knew the principle, but I didn't remember what it was called. CW7 is the atmosphere to block out the rays of the sun, to cool down the planet, which incidentally is exactly what we're planning to do in 2021. Some American dudes backed by, I think it's Bill Gates, were like, yeah, cool, let's do that. That sounds like a really good idea. And our scientists went, that's fucking nuts. Don't do that. And they're like, pfft.
Yep.
So we are about to reenact the plot of Snowpiercer in the real world.
So what it actually does is you release a vapor that is made up of several different chemical elements into the air, and they have a really high reflecting point. So they reflect the rays of the sun back rather than kind of allow them to come in. It's kind of along the same technological geoengineering lines as things like cloud seeding, which is where you create clouds, artificial clouds that can then bring rain to places that are suffering from drought.
Seeding it with silver nitrate or something, isn't it?
I think it is silver nitrate, yeah. But it's a fascinating science. I don't think we should be anywhere near it yet, but the science itself is really fascinating. I've read a lot about it.
Well, there you go. But the film itself, rather than going into we don't have time to go into the show, so we'll just talk about the film, which was made by Bong Joon-ho. I can pronounce that correctly. I think I have. And it's based on
Le Transperce-Neige.
There you go. Le Transperce-Neige, which is French.
French.
For nothing at all. That is French for nothing at all.
Whatever just came out of your mouth was not French in any way, shape, or form.
Le Transperce-Neige.
Neige.
Neige.
Transperce-Neige. You're just doing it to irritate me now, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's working though.
It really is.
Which was obviously a French climate change graphic novel kind of fiction. As an amazing cast, I thought.
It's Captain America, Boromir.
John Hurt. It's got the War Doctor in it.
It does have Boromir in it, doesn't it?
Boromir?
Yeah.
Well, I remember.
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean in it?
Yes, he is. He's Mr. Mr.
Mr. Front of the Train.
Hang on, I'm looking.
Oh,
Mr.
right,
Wilfred.
Yeah. Yes.
Wilfred, not Wilfred.
Alison Pill's in it?
Yes. There
you go. Octavia Spencer's in it?
Yeah.
What do you mean,
Yes, it does have some incredible people in it. You're not wrong.
Don't shrug at Octavia Spencer.
I don't know.
Shrugging at Octavia Spencer. I love Octavia Spencer.
I don't know who they are.
She was in Zootopia.
Okay. I'm surprised I didn't recognise her.
But yeah, I think that's probably one of my favourites. It's particularly. Obviously, we spoke about this before we got on the pod. I was saying like the way that social stratification works in the film is particularly fantastic for a model of like how we're going to survive. So I spent a lot of time with a couple of friends of mine who are scientists that specifically deal with eco change and go out and give lectures to the very, very wealthy. And they will say stuff like, so we go to people that we expect to invest in saving the planet. They'll be billionaires and they'll be like, cool, this is what you can do to save the planet. We'll give like a 5-hour lecture and they'll say, cool, we've got the armed guards. How do we build the bunker? Like, how do we make sure that we can have people look after us, basically?
No.
And that's Snowpiercer, right?
It is pretty much.
And that is. I mean, I'm not making this up. I think Holly probably knows what I'm talking about.
I do.
And yeah, they go and do these things, and the ultra rich are just like, yeah, fuck the world. We just want to survive, so we're going to build a bunker, and we're going to make sure we've got enough food, and we're going to make sure we've got security guards, and we're going to make sure those security guards keep the people that are going to serve us in line.
Mm.
So, like, it's exactly what we're heading towards, and I find that quite watching the film very fascinating. Yes,
quite scary. Just as a side point, Sean Bean is in the series, not the movie, which
there
is
we
why I
go.
got confused.
Oh, there you
I didn't think he was in the film, but don't worry. If we do get stuck in that situation, as you said, we do have Captain America to save us.
We do.
We do, yes.
We do. Yeah.
America's ours.
Which is always handy. And Song Kang Ho as well. He'll be there, so they'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a tremendous film. It's a very Noah's Ark kind of affair.
Sorry.
Go on. No, go on. I was going to say, what about you, Beans? So go for life.
It's also got the connotations of Speed, hasn't it? With Sandra Bullock, like got to keep Speed. You'd think, wouldn't you, that when Speed came out in France, they'd call it La Vitesse.
But no,
they just called it Speed. Speed. Because you can't stop moving. You've got to keep moving. Always got to keep moving. But you're just moving on a track that will inevitably just go round, round again. And it does have that kind of that claustrophobia and that boredom that I would associate with what living in a post-apocalyptic world would be like, because there are no new experiences in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, it kind of just draws you in as well, doesn't it? When you're watching it, draws you into that world, and you really kind of get involved. I wanted to watch, as soon as I finished watching it once, I really wanted to watch it again. So I'd missed and kind of get into.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredible. A lot of interesting theories that surround Snowpiercer.
Well, I think before we get into the interesting theories, let's ask Mark what he thinks, because he said he hated it earlier and he's fascinated.
I've seen it once, and maybe I was just in the wrong frame of mind, but I wasn't that impressed by it. It didn't. I think it felt like a bottle episode, in the same way the Train to Busan is very contained, within its environment. That Snowpiercer is very contained within its environment, and it didn't feel particularly apocalyptic. It almost felt dystopian in its themes rather than apocalyptic.
Oh, that's really interesting, because it is kind of like, we were having this, I know that, I was having this conversation last time where, like, for me, BioShock is a localized apocalypse. Like, the world under the sea has seen a localized apocalypse, and it doesn't matter what's going on in the rest of the world. Like, there is a localized apocalypse there. What you're saying here, I think, is that Snowpiercer is set in an apocalyptic world, but the story itself revolves around dystopian themes. So it's a localized dystopia within a post-apocalyptic environment.
A high-speed, self-contained dystopian society traveling through an apocalyptic world.
That's no, I love it. I think that's okay. I think it's incredible. Like, I love the idea that it just kind of takes, because you do get like these localized kind of catastrophes that completely break, or like localized dystopian things which do just kind of like where society breaks down in very small places.
Well, I mean, how would you place the train in this matter? Because like in a lot of the films and so forth that kind of move into that dystopian thing, like Time Machine, right? People end up worshipping like ancient tech or whatever. In this case, if the train stops moving, they all everything falls down. It's like the Etch-a-Sketch end of the world, right? It just gets shaken up and everything falls down. And obviously they get to the engine at the end of the film, and they're like, don't fuck around, man. You're going to destroy the engine. That's going to be really bad. No one knows what they're doing. So how does that fit into I mean, that's your new society, yeah? That's the core of your...
The core, like the film with Aaron Eckhart and Hilary Swank.
What have I done? Oh, dear God. If you talk about the core, we're going to have to talk about Sunshine as well.
Talk about the core. You just wait, Mark. One day we'll talk about my 3 favourite films of all time. Cube 2, Hypercube.
I love Cube.
Yes!
I hate you both.
Cube's a great film. It's a really inventive film for like low budget. We've got one set. Yeah? It's a brilliant film.
That
Yeah.
makes me so happy because every single person I've ever met in the whole world hates Cube, and I love it.
And now
so
I
No,
much.
it's great.
as well.
But the thing about environmental apocalypses
Yeah.
is that virtually every single film you can name is utterly ludicrous. Like The Core, we've got to jumpstart the spinning core of the Earth to save the world. Or Sunshine, we've got to jumpstart the bloody sun to save the Earth. Or then you've got
What
things
else
like...
are you going to do? You just die otherwise.
Well, no, if you
Jeez,
don't
Mark.
jumpstart the sun, you get Snowpiercer.
Yeah, but it's and 2012, utterly ludicrous. The world after it was the
Day
day
After Tomorrow.
Yeah, again, utterly ludicrous. This is these big, high concept Hollywood films, but they are utterly ludicrous.
But they're in that same vein as things like the Poseidon Adventure, right? They're utterly ludicrous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Big budget, ships sinking, Poseidon Adventure, Towering Inferno.
Towering Inferno, yeah,
Yeah.
Earthquake.
Yeah, same kind of principle.
Do you
Yeah,
think that
disaster movies.
they have to make disaster movies like extra ridiculous because they're the ones that are most likely to happen, like Twister? Like, you know, like you have to make that, like you have to make things like the, you know, like the environmental stuff extra ridiculous because, you know, like these are the things that could actually possibly happen. Like, you know, the Earth is actually genuinely tilting off its axis, and that could have huge ramifications for us. So you make
magnetic fields might flip any moment.
Daleks might turn up.
Or you could send Aaron Eckhart and Hilary Swank into the center of the Earth.
We can do that anyway. I'm happy just to send them there
to let off a nuclear explosion with Stanley Tucci. Excellent casting.
But that's because he's in everything, isn't he?
I love Stanley Tucci. I think he's great.
Disaster movies aside.
Sorry.
There's so many of them, yeah, disaster. We could do like 80 pods on ridiculous. The other day I was just scrolling through Amazon looking for something to put on in the background while I worked, and I didn't even bother seeing what it was called. I watched that like kind of 45-second, like this is what the film happens in the film, and it's some guys in an aeroplane that crashed into the sea. Like 5 people get trapped in an air bubble at one end of it, as far as I can tell, and it sinks a long way to the bottom of the sea in the air bubble, lands next to an impossibly deep gorge, which they are just on the precipice.
Oh, you're always just teetering on the brink, aren't you, of the Mariana Trench?
What's outside?
Sharks?
Sharks!
Yes, I've seen that one advertised.
I think I've seen that one advertised too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is it utterly ludicrous?
Yeah, it looked it. I watched the kind of hopping my mouse over it and watched some of it and went like, oh, this is just so stupid. But yeah, anyway.
There is one film which we haven't mentioned.
Yep.
Which, in terms of
Mention
the
it.
end of the world, is probably the most real, and that's The Road.
Okay.
Have you seen The Road?
I started
That's
watching
what the end
The
of
Road.
the world's going to be like. It's going to be fucking grim. I mean, it is not a joyous film to watch at all. It's not utterly ludicrous. It's just really, really dour and grim. But I think in terms of a film which is meant to be the end of the world, that's the one.
Well, we won't leave you on that, listeners.
We'll go back to Snowpiercer.
Let's
Look at Ely's fun, though. That's nice. It looks pretty.
Sure. The Snowpiercer thing, there's a theory that Beans wants to say about that's all over the internet and YouTube. Briefly, Beans, tell us about why it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory 2.
So there is a theory that is going around on the internet, and I've thought about what you said about the train as well being like the core of everything, and I think you're right. I think it's like the train is the main character, and everybody else is just kind of like an actor.
So it's not Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it's Thomas the Tank Engine.
Well, it's sort of Thomas the Tank Engine, but it's also Charlie and the Chocolate Factory if you listen to the internet. Because
is this more stoned people?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Thomas the Tanked Up Engine.
Oh, it's funny. Basically, the theory is that Snowpiercer is a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. If you ignore the Great Glass Elevator, or you can probably keep the Great Glass Elevator in there, eventually Charlie of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, he who wins the competition, becomes Mr.
Chocolate Factory for everyone now.
It's the statute of spoilers has really expired on most of the things that Roald Dahl wrote. In fact, all of the things that Roald Dahl wrote. Mr. Charlie, the guy that's in charge of the train is Charlie from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it's a popular theory because it suggests that Charlie, who survived the Chocolate Factory, grows up to become Mr. Wilford, who is the inventor of the Snowpiercer and his perpetual motion machine that keeps going, and all of the sort of the things that surround that. And he is the leader of this new post-apocalyptic society. The theories that they basically kind of go through with this suggest that because there are similarities in the films, right? So like both of them feature a group of people who have to navigate a structure that is full of hidden dangers that they're not warned about in any way, shape, or form. In both of those, somebody is eliminated from every single room that they pass through. So like Augustus Gloop in the Chocolate River, and then there was that guy in the room full of fish. Was it fish?
It reminded me of a Fallout episode, just very briefly, where if the Oompa Loompas were in this one, there'd be Oompa Loompa Dumpa D flammed guards. You should really watch out for the armed guards.
I was going to ask about the Oompa Loompas.
They're not in it.
Okay. I think that's where your theory falls down.
Well, I've got a last one. In both films, the final survivor
is an Oompa Loompa?
It's not an Oompa Loompa. The final survivor discovers that the whole journey was a test to find a successor for a wealthy industrialist. So there are a lot of similarities between a lot of films, but you can draw parallels between anything if you really want to. So it's, it just depends on how shaky those parallels are.
Even Mark thinks you're talking nonsense or he's having the tricky shit. It's hard to tell.
I think he thinks I'm talking nonsense, but I don't particularly prescribe to Snowpiercer as the sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I think he's a Time Lord, quite clearly. Anyway, let's leave the films behind. So we discussed some films. The listeners have probably found this a load of nonsense and claptrap, but there we are.
And Oompa Loompas.
If you're still listening to this, thank you so very much.
Hello.
Are you tied to a chair or something? Is someone forcing you to do this? We were going to talk about other stuff in our last section, but there's no time at all for it. So I'm going to reel off the words 2000 AD, really enjoyed Dread, Tank Girl, Zombicide, the board game, All Flesh Must Be in the role-playing game. These are all things that I love, so the post-apocalyptic world that aren't stuff we've already talked about. And I might talk about them again.
Dread? We should talk about Dread. Not now, obviously, but like
we should do a whole thing on Dread.
Oh, I love Dread. Can we talk? Let's do an episode on Dread.
And we'll have to really see if we can get Jason Kingsley to come on.
Oh, that would be fun. Yay!
There you go.
So yes, that is the end of our post-apocalyptic nonsense. But next week we'll have an interview coming up. It might, we don't know yet. We just don't know if it might be someone that will talk about the post-apocalyptic or they'll talk about ponies. It depends entirely on who we get on this show. But I promise you that next week will be an interview, even if we're interviewing my cat. That'll be fun. Which one? Good big question. Even more mystery.
Rocky talks the most.
No, not at the moment. Group wants to go out. Right, so we're also going to move on to another topic of things. We've got one last topic of things to talk about before we get into October and Scary Halloween, at which point we'll probably dress up and talk all about, terrifying things. Because we love talking about horror, but, actual horror films like the Spice Girls movie. And
that was not a horror film. That's one of the best pieces of cinema ever made.
I just want to say that so Hollywood say that.
Fight you.
Is there a theory that it's a post-apocalyptic movie?
Yeah, it's based in post-apocalyptic London. You can tell because
it's not. It's the follow-up to 300, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Clearly.
Yeah. Even though 300 was made like 20 years after.
Spice Arter. That's how it works. Anyway. Who knows what we're going to be talking about? But eventually we're talking about horror movies and shit like that, dressed up with gibbons. So, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Power of the Force, goodbye. Take care of each other. Have an amazing week. We love you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Gibbons.
You have been listening to A Geek Tragedy with me, Plague Mantle, and my best friend, the excellent Holly Properly, and our actually famous guy, Mark Cordory. If you like this, there is plenty more at patreon.com/A Geek Tragedy. Production is by Kit Brutnell. Our logo and artwork is by markcordory.com. Music is by Boleslaw Kozielski. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Geek Tragedy. Email us at geektragedypodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe, leave us a rating and a review. And don't forget to tell all your geeky friends. Also, a big shout out to all of our genius geeks. We adore each and every one of you. And of course, much love. Take care of each other.